So next topic we're going on to is preparation. So this topic is about the different setup that you have to do when you first receive the system, when you first begin using the system lah. Yeah. And also the places that you need to check containing, let's say, your setup details. So let's have a look. Okay, so first thing to do when you receive a system, right? Go to setup over here. This one is important. Go to company details, and then the module you want to open is company. Okay, so you'll see only one register on this list. This is your company. To open, either click edit or just double click over here. These are the details of the company that are registered inside your setup. Okay. So what you need to do is these things are pre-set up for you already when before we hand over to you the database. But what you need to do upon receiving is just to do a double check, make sure the details are correct. Let us know if there's any changes that you need to do. There are certain things that actually you can just change by yourself, like let's say the address, because this one is not too crucial. But something like your company name, this one you won't be able to change on your own. This is to prevent any accidental mishaps lah, to change these kind of things because these things can be audited. Your accounting currency also a very important one. This one, if let's say it is not accurate, need to let us know, then we can change for you. The rest of these details, look through them, and if any corrections need to be made, then just make the amendments there. Lor. If your company is GST registered, this one you have to make sure this checkbox is ticked. This one allows the system to, whether or not this is ticked, will allow the system to be compliant lah, to the to let's say IRA's compliance, all the requirements. So for just one quick example is if you're GST registered, your invoices need to say tax invoice instead of sales invoice. So just having this tick right allows the system to stay compliant to all these requirements. Okay, also because your document your document layouts will be quite different because at the bottom instead of just a total amount, there's a subtotal, there's a GST, and then there is grand total. So that's another thing. Yeah, you have to take this thing in order for that layout to apply to your system. Yeah. Okay. Over here on the right side, you see one or two attachments. They contain the format should be PowerPoint PPTX. They contain your company's what you call that document letterhead and footer designs. So you have to download the PowerPoint, open it in order to make any design changes, and then you can attach it back here as for future reference. Lor. Yeah. Okay. Second thing that you need to do after making sure that the company details are correct, go to accounts, AC setting, and over here this place it contains a few things that you need to check. Number one is on the table on the right hand side here, financial periods. So make sure the start and end date of your company financial period is correct. There needs to for every year there is you need to create one period per year lah. Yeah, for every year. So a period if you just begin using a system, let's say this year, and the opening your designated opening date, let's say it's in August, okay, 1st August, you need to create the financial year accordingly. Yeah. So if let's say your designated opening date is on the financial period start date, then just nice create from there. But otherwise, you have to backdate a bit, create the financial year which your opening date is stationed in. Yeah. Okay, make sure the status is open. So this allows you to make any entries and transactions on that date. Lah. Okay, and then yeah, this one is important for year-end closing, which you may not be doing so soon. But make sure that your retained earnings account, right, the account that is going to hold the that year's profit or loss, right, is selected correctly over here. Because when you do year-end closing process, this is the account that they'll move the balance. The balances will be moved to. Okay, the focus over here is the financial period. Make sure that one is correct and set up. Okay. Okay, next one is your document running number. Okay, so every document that you create, the system will issue a document number. The number has to be unique. So there cannot be any two documents in the system with the same number. Lah. Um, but that makes it kind of easy also because the system has a format that you can customize. And then every time you create a new document, the system will just use that same format and bump the number up by one. So for example, okay, let me just show you guys the format over here. In your system, you should already have a default. So one default format for every different module in your system. So we see our invoice default. The format is very straightforward. It is two characters to signify the document. So for invoice is IV, followed by a single dot, and then followed by an 8-digit running number. So this will be something like 00000001. It is quite long, but you can shorten it. You can put in other things such as the current date, current month, current year, all these kind of things inside the document name itself. So we take a look at this example. So this is the one I pre-created just to show you guys. I'm not sure if my screen is big enough for you guys to see. Can you guys see the text over here? Okay, I think I'll make it bigger a bit. Okay, so over here, this is the new format I have for created just to showcase what you can do. So for example, instead of IV, I want my invoice document number to say INV, begin with INV. Okay, so I put INV dot, and then now I want it to display the year which it was created in. So if a document is created in uh, 2024, this year right now, it will show 24, and then dash the month, which is let's say 10th, which is October, and then followed by two dashes, and then finally the document running number itself, encased inside parentheses. Okay, so we can see over here, this is the format. This is like coding like that lah. You show the system what format you want to make. So to tell the system to show two digits signifying the current year, I put square bracket YY and then close square bracket. Okay, so the YY is the format, and the square bracket is to tell the system that whatever is encased inside the square bracket is not hard coded, but it's actually a format. Yeah. If I don't have the square bracket, the system will just display two characters YY on every document running number. Yeah. But if I encase it in square bracket, the system will know, okay, this YY is not just to display, it's actually it stands for the year. Same for MM, that stands for the month. And then if I put a DD, it is the current date. The year can also be 4 digits lah. So it can be 2 or 4. If I put YYYY, it will be a 4-digit year. Okay, now for the running number portion, it is square bracket encasing zeros. So the more zeros inside the square bracket, the the larger the running number, the running portion of the format. Yeah. So this is 3 digits. So the next number over here is 1. So that means I have yet to create any document using this format yet. So the next document I create will be the document number one lah. And then in this field here, the example, it shows what is the actual document number that will be assigned to the next document I'm about to create using this code. So that will be inv.24-10-001. And then after I created that, the next number will go up by one, it will become two. And then the document I create after that will be like this, ends with 002. So the system will simply bump up the next number by in increments of one every time we create a document. And then the system will just run, the document running number will just run on and on. Okay, if I set the reset over here to monthly, that means that every month, right, this portion here will go back to 001. The number here will be reset. And this one it's not going to become a duplicate because if it resets on a monthly basis, right, it means when the next month rolls around and the here becomes 11 instead of 10, then it'll no longer, it'll still remain unique law, because even though the running number portion go back to 001, it is no longer the month 10th, it is the month 11. Yeah, so that one is the reset function here. Okay, then let's see what's next. Okay, next is configuring your document defaults. So this one we'll just use one example. But let me just first show you where the setting is. It's under default setting, company details default setting. So over here, this module actually has a lot of tabs over here. You will see at the top, there's the first level of tabs, right? Is sales, purchase, others, and then properties. But sales and purchase, they correspond to these activities here, sales and purchase. And then the tabs at the bottom, it corresponds to the modules inside sales, the modules inside purchases, and then there's also others and properties lah. But yeah, so these are actually the settings, the default settings for each of those document entry modules, and also journal entry and statement of account. So just to go into one section to take a look, for example, sales quotation. These fields over here, these are all different fields inside quotation, and anything I enter over here and save, they will appear inside my next quotation that I create, and the following quotations that I create as a default. So for example, if the reference is, okay, let's not say reference, let's say subject. Excuse me. The subject, if I put quotation for space, and then the remark over here is already by default quotation valid for 14 days. I click save, or let's say contract by default, I put save. When I create a new quotation, it's going to have a default subject, it's going to have a default remarks, and over here, this checkbox for contract, it is ticked by default. Yeah. So that's to show you one example. So each of these modules here have a different default, have slightly different fields over here lah. So all these things that you can set by default log, yeah, to make your um to make quicker your everyday document entry lah. If you find that there is something that you have to enter every time, say as part of company protocol, that's where you can use this default settings to save time. No. Another example is payment mode. Under purchase payment, there's this payment mode over here. From my understanding, companies, even if they have multiple bank account, usually when they're making accounts payable, purchases, and payments, is using the same payment mode one lah, yeah, the same bank account. So instead of having to select the payment mode every time, you can simply select it as a default over here. Okay, and actually that is all for default setting. Next, we're just looking at chart of creating chart of accounts. Yeah. So chart of account, yes, it is a setup, but usually it is something you do at the start lah. It's not. It's one of the setups that we expect the least amount of change as time goes on, compared to something like business partners. Your clientele and your supplier list are usually going to change or grow over time. That is to be expected. Same for your item list, which is your list of products that you buy or sell. But company chart of account, usually this one we expect fewer changes, if any lah. Yeah. So usually any changes to this will be done at the start, creating of your and registering of your chart of accounts. So I'm just going to show you guys how to create different kinds of accounts, or rather the three different situations you need to look out for lah. Okay. So first off is the easiest one. It is the situation that applies for all categories except for two. So just a straightforward expense account. Let's say we want to create an expense account, and the code we put EXP 3301, following our company's chart code format. The description, let's say, is other fee, and then just like that, I'm able to create this account. Sorry, or register this account in the system, inside the system's chart. Okay, then next, let's say we want to create a fixed asset account. So fixed asset one is a little there's another something else we need to take note of. So that is because when we select fixed asset over here, there's a depreciation account that we need to select also. Because together with every fixed asset account, there needs to be a accumulated depreciation account. So over here under fixed asset, instead of creating the fixed asset first, we need to create the accumulated depreciation account first. So under category, there's a fixed asset ACC depreciation. Yeah, we select that. So let's say this fixed asset is called YH1234A. That's the name. But instead of that, we're going to create the accumulated depreciation for this account. And then the code is like that. Okay. And then now we can proceed to create the actual fixed asset itself. And you see this new field over here, the depreciation account. We can select this one that we created. If we haven't created it before, we won't be able to register this fixed asset because there's nothing to select here, and this field is compulsory. Yeah. So that is the thing to take note of when you're creating fixed asset. Okay, now the very last category that is unique is bank account. So you can see three fields over here, quite straightforward. But if you were to select bank, you'll see the other fields that are created: currency, bank initial, and even a check setting prefix and next check number over here. Well, we'll just keep things simple. We'll be talking about only currency and bank initial. So for example, your bank code is give me a moment. I follow an example over here. CAS 100 1000. Yeah. And the description is UOB. Okay, we need to select the bank account's currency. So in this case, it's SGD. And the bank initial also put in here UOB. Okay, the currency and bank initial are take note of it is important. If you plan to create a check layout for this bank account, the remark we suggest putting your account number so it is easier to see and identify this account when you're selecting it to register a payment inside the software. Okay, this one I'm just going to key in as per our exercise over here. Okay, next step we're doing is registering a new payment mode. Okay, payment mode can be found under accounts and then payment mode here. So we create new. So let's create this payment mode for the new bank account that we just created. Okay. So when you create a bank account, it is not yet a payment mode. That means from payment voucher, receipt voucher, those document entries that are going to create a double entry towards a bank account. We cannot directly select the bank account. We have to select the payment mode. So that's where we have to register a payment mode here and link it to the bank account. So at any time any document is using a payment mode, whether it is receiving a withdrawal or deposit, it is going to post a transaction to the bank account that is registered to this payment mode. So I'm going to follow our exercise here. I've put the code as mode 1, the description as UOB Bank. The type over here, I can select either option for payment slash receipt or option for petty cash. Okay. So this will determine whether this payment mode will be available for selection under payment voucher and receipt voucher or for petty cash voucher. Yeah. It's either or, it is not both. The account, obviously, I need to select the UOB account. And as we mentioned just now, this is what I mentioned just now. The account code, if you type it inside remarks, it will appear over here. So it's easy for you to see. The bank charges, if let's say your company has a chart code and a dedicated expense account for bank charges, go ahead and select that. Otherwise, you can select the default expense account for register documenting any expense you incur via bank charges. So since my company has one just for bank charges, I'm going to click that. And since I do have a checkbook from this bank, I intend to print checks on the system. I'm going to tick check. Okay, and actually that's all for setting up. So in setting up, excuse me, just do a brief recap. In preparation, we talk about entering company information. This is the place to check. And then next place to check is your accounts AC setting for your financial year. After that, format your running number. Otherwise, you'll be using our defaults. Next is configure any default settings you may have. This one actually is no rush lah, because default settings are optional. They are quality of life. It just improves quality of life. It's not really a necessity, and it's something you can afford to do at a later time once you know what defaults you are more familiar with your own company defaults. Yeah. Okay, and then next is creating chart of account. Okay. How to create normal expense account, same as any other account. And then the special accounts are fixed asset account, which needs a fixed asset depreciation account to have existed first in order to create it. And then there is a bank account, which also has check setting, has bank initial and currency. And then lastly, it is registering a new payment mode. Okay, then we can move on to the next topic, which is opening balance.